Hi, everybody. So last night on Twitter, I was tweeting about the fact that I've been working on a dashboards chapter for the Graphite book. And actually, Torkel, who's the creator of Grafana, reached out to me. And he offered to do a quick Google Hangout, walking through some of the newer features in Grafana, and just kind of give me an up-to-date look at what's going on. So we did a quick hangout this evening. It's about 30 minutes. We walked through the upcoming version, which is Grafana 3.0. There's a lot of really cool stuff in there. Most of the conversation tends to, it's oriented around graphite. So a lot of graphite-specific stuff. Some stuff I haven't personally seen before, specifically stuff like, I hesitate to say like full-blown tags. It's not tags, but it's something that emulates tags, and it looks really powerful. And there's some other stuff with the templating. So anyways, looks really cool. So we've got it here for you today. So enjoy.
So yeah, let's start. Let's see, can do that. So yeah, I mean, the thing that I can just give you a quick guide for Grafana 3, which is the version that is it's out in beta now, but the stable is about to be released within maybe 1 or 2 weeks.
Sure.
So most of the things, I mean, everything I'm going to show can also be you can play with on the Grafana demo site, play.grafana.org. And there are some on that site. There is also this graphite query guide dashboard. I haven't completed it yet. It still requires more work, but it kind of tries to exemplify some of the how scale to seconds work, why it's so important, what effects rollup can have, and tries to explain the max consolidation. There are some style issues that I just fixed yesterday. But anyway, let's see. We can start on this instance. So I mean, when you start Grafana, you have to log in and add your data source, and this is something you do if you're an admin. You can add data sources, and this is nothing special about this. I mean, you specify a name, maybe your production graphite server, and here we have the option of either using localhost and having, let's say Graphite and Grafana is running on the same server, then you can specify localhost and proxy. Proxy means that all the requests are going through the Grafana backend.
Right. For cores.
Yeah, mainly for not having to worry about cores issues.
Yeah.
But you can still use direct access, but then this URL needs to be addressable from the browser, and course options headers must be defined.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So that's all the options, and this is basic auth credentials is for people who have special graphite setups. Sure. But once that's done, another thing that's kind of cool that is with something that we're going to work more on is that when you have saved your graphite data source, you can actually test it out right away. There is the data source comes with one dashboard, which is a dashboard for carbon metrics. Nice. So you can right away look at the metrics received CPU for the carbon agents and stuff like that.
That chart looks very familiar.
Yeah, no, I think it's I think some of these originated from a blog post you made many years ago. I'm not sure.
That's funny.
Yeah. So let's jump into. I mean, dashboard building is the biggest clunky thing right now. That's something we hope to address in the next point release. So right now, the clunky thing is the concept of rows in Grafana, in that these green thingies are sort of row indicators, and that's the main way you can add new panels. And the main panel that most people use, is graph panel, and there's a single stat panel and a table panel as well. And when you add a new panel,
so each panel has to be of a particular type. You can't mix and match.
No, of course. I mean, you can mix and match on the same dashboard. So I mean,
but not any row.
Yeah. You can mix. So let's say I had a single stat panel. So I mean, a row can have.
You can have multiple panels in a row.
Yeah, and so you control the size. You can control the size by either dragging in the corner, or using these sort of plus and minus icons.
Okay.
And the thing that sort of trips many people up and is sort of the initial experience or understanding that this is a row, and you can add panels, and that to interact with a panel in Grafana, you have to click the title to sort of enter edit mode, or you can drag and drop the panel by just dragging the panel title. So yeah, that's sort of some of the sort of non-obvious ways. We want to improve it in the next release, but right now they're still kind of.
Are you using Gridster for the drag and drop?
No, I'm trying. I would like to move to it eventually, but right now these are sort of manual. It's not as fancy or good as Gridster.
Yeah. No, I was just curious.
No. So anyway, so when you go into a graph, you are usually jumped so direct to the metrics tab, and in this case, Graphite is my default data source, so it will default to Graphite. And then you sort of get the. I mean, you've seen this bit before. You get this sort of nice pre-selection of the metric tree, and you can at any point sort of change any part of the metric key. And the plus icon is the sort of add function feature, where you can just either use the menu as explore what functions are available. Let's see. Explore what functions are available, or you can, if you just know the function, so let's sort of add an alias by node. You can also start typing.
I assume that's all still hard-coded in Grafana because we never exposed that kind of metadata API sort of stuff we talked about.
Yeah. This is all hard-code. All the function definitions are hard-coded in Grafana.
Okay.
So when you add that, Grafana is clever enough to sort of see that you have a wildcard in the second node, and it will sort of automatically pick the node number there for alias by node. And another sort of a little bit sort of nice. If you then later add a scale to seconds, the scale to second will see, oh, you have an alias function. I will add this function before. So it's nice. Otherwise, I mean, if you have it like this, you get scale to second in the alias.
Right.
So that's just a nice little sort of thing that Grafana tries to make the right thing when it can.
Now, what is in that next entry, or the next? I don't want to call it row, but next line down.
Yeah.
What is the add query thing there after the data source?
So this is actually we're just now designing, trying to improve this design of this and make it more intuitive. So I mean, add query just adds a new query.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And this data, if I click on the Graphite here, I can actually switch to another data source. If I sort of pick Elasticsearch, I can have Elasticsearch query editor here. So that
you can mix and match different series from different sources on the same graph.
Yeah. So this is let's pick Graphite and have a Graphite query here. What I can do is sort of change to a data source that's called mixed, and then I can add a data source, add an Elasticsearch query here. I don't have an Elasticsearch server up and running, that's why it's generating an error here. But you can mix and match on the same graph queries for different data sources. And something that I want to do in a future release is also have the ability to do sort of cross data source aggregations and functions. So like it would be, that's why all queries have this letter A, B, C. Mm-hmm. This is for, in a future release, I want to be able to do sort of, I want to summarize as a series 1 and B. Yeah, this only works in Graphite. So this would actually work if I sort of removed the query A there, and sort of if I had so some series. This is a very, very cool feature. Graphite is such a unique data source when it comes to be able to do nested queries. No other time series database can do this.
Yeah.
And it's so powerful when you sort of do complex sort of analytics. And I mean, I use Graphite a lot for application metrics and business metrics, and be able to do sort of summarize a series and use functions like diff series and as percent.
Yeah,
it's just super useful. This is kind of a cool. So if
that's some series though, if you're doing that some series you had there, you're doing that client side or
no. Yeah, I'll show you. So if I add, let's switch to.
So when you say it works for Graphite, it still has to be the same data source.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Graphite only feature. So
but it can't be two distinct Graphite sources. It has to be that same data source.
Yeah, exactly. It has to be the same Graphite server, same Graphite data source.
Okay.
So the way that it works. So let's say, now we have all the servers split on. So we can sort of make so in display tab we can add options like stacking. So now let's stack all the series, and let's say we want to add a sum of all these series as well, and let's call that alias sum. So we have to specify a parameter. So let's say sum of all the queries A. Now we should have a red series here. So the way this works is basically this query, which looks under the hood, it looks like this is a new query editor that I'm working on. So basically this query is just taking this full query and replacing the bracket A and sends it to Graphite. Mm-hmm. So it's like a text templating thing.
Yeah.
To make nested queries work within the scheme of this query editor. Because one of the sort of limitations I had to make when doing sort of unwrapping the function calls like this is that I can only support one metric key. And Graphite can of course support sort of functions like some series that takes multiple metric keys or multiple functions. So in order to support that, I kind of invented this way to define multiple queries, and that I can then use in other queries.
Gotcha.
So if I have sort of two queries here or three, I can just sort of summarize all of them, and opt to not send and opt to not sort of send any of these to Graphite. So in this case, you see the query that is sent to Graphite is all these queries put into the sum series function.
Right.
Anyway, this is a feature that I expect many sort of that use Grafana that don't exactly know, because it is hidden within this help here, series as parameters, where you can describe how it works. But it's one of the favorite things that I like about Graphite is that it's the way that you can sort of nest functions and nest queries is so powerful, and no other data source currently supported.
What do you call that within Grafana? With the hash A, B,
C? It's series as parameters, but it should probably be called query as parameter. So each query gets its own letter, and then you can just reference. It only works with the functions like sort of as%, diff series, sum series, and average series. So all the graphite functions that take another
they take a series list.
Yeah, exactly. Those work.
Cool.
So, yeah. So let's see what other nice things. So like graphites. So yeah, one thing that sort of could be good to mention. I mean, I think this maybe relates to sort of the standard graphite web graphing tool as well, is sort of how to handle null values. And graphite is, I guess, a little bit. Sometimes there's databases don't return null values, but anyway, when you have stacking enabled in Grafana, it's quite important that all metrics points have values, because the stacking is kind of it doesn't like null values.
Right.
But there's also this option in the standard graphite, sort of, where you can, I'm not sure what it was called, connected line. So how to if you should ignore null values basically or not.
Oh, well, not draw null as 0.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a similar option in Grafana where you can sort of it's named a little bit differently. So in display options, you can sort of select how should null values be handled. Connected, which is a bad name for this, I think, it's basically ignore null values in that. So if I zoom back enough to sort of, I'm not sure, I don't have any outage here, but if there was a gap where there was no data points, if I use connected, I don't see that. But if I use null, I would sort of get.
When you say you don't see that, you mean you would see a gap for all series?
Yeah. So this is, I mean, this is for all series. How the renderer should handle null values.
Gotcha.
I think some of the functions you can still use the graphite functions.
So can you go back to connected now so I can see the difference?
Yeah, so I can just remove stacking to be...
No. Put it back on stacking. I want to see the difference between those two.
Yeah, so here you can see that they were actually missing some values here.
Now switch that to connected.
So if I took connected, it will just
it's like interpolate, but no.
Yeah, exactly. It will just, and you can also sort of use null as 0, which will sort of create a dip there instead.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
But it's this option is quite important for graphite in that sort of if you do, it always sends nulls when you don't have any data. Some data sources don't use that, or but yeah, this is one of the core things, especially if you have issues with the stacking, and it can be sort of, you might need to set it to null as 0. That's the sort of the most correct way when using stacking, at least.
Yeah.
So let's see. Yeah, so we can jump into another topic, and that's templating, which is also really cool. So let's create a template variable called server, and this is there are different types of variables, but the basic most useful one is called query, which allows you to sort of pose a metric name query. In this case, sort of using the metric find API in Graphite. So I can sort of let's see. So let's say I want all servers. I can then see that, okay, I get a bunch of backend servers and web front ends here. And this is just a metric find query, the same type of query that is used by the query editor to sort of to get these alternative sort of metric segments or nodes.
Right.
The same kind of API can be used the same kind of query can be used to fill in the values of a template variable. And so let's continue that, and we can sort of call this server, and you can also, these can be very dynamic. You can sort of reload, query Graphite for them on every dashboard load, or just have them persist in the dashboard definition. Then you sort of get this sort of selection here, where you can select which server you want to graph, and let's switch.
That's a nice kind of workaround around tagging, the lack of tagging. That's
yeah, and I can show you an even cooler thing that sort of mimics tagging in Graphite. So instead of sort of picking a server here, I can just pick this this template variable instead, server, and sort of I'll continue to select the request counter here. Let's just alias by node. So we see that sort of, and we can also use this template variable in the, let's say, in the template, in the query header here. So put in server.
That's really nice.
And then now if I just pick another server, okay, that's the interesting thing here. So I picked the web server, but that is not a valid metric for. I have to have a wildcard in this spot if that's supposed to be a valid. Why this? Oh. I'm just rebuilding the query editors, and I'm in a kind of unstable branch right now. So let's try that again.
Hey, can I ask you something? Because one thing I keep thinking about as you're doing that is that point and clicking inside the what do you call it? Not query editors.
The query editor.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would drive me. Have you considered doing something like where, as you, instead of clicking out of it, like hitting tab, and as you do that, it continues to keep focus and then do the metrics find on the next field?
I mean, now I'm doing this via the keyboard, so you can use the keyboard.
Okay.
And not sort of have to use the mouse to select it.
Okay. Perfect.
It's not super quick, but it can be improved a little bit. One thing that I would like to do sometimes, sort of have all the metric keys indexed, so you can sort of do very fast free form sort of searching on a full metric key. But there is some sort of key binding features here. So when you start, when you do the first one, you can just use your sort of arrow keys and enter. But another cool thing about templating is that I can actually also, if I go back to the template variable definition, select sort of that I want to be able to select multiple values. And what this does is that it changes this becomes, instead of just selecting one value, you can actually select multiple sort of servers.
Yeah, nice.
And so this will just change the query. This server variable will just be interpolated as a blob expression in this case.
Okay.
So backend 3 plus 4 will just be sort of curly brace backend 3 curly brace 4. And an experiment.
What happens when you click on the server dropdown? Okay, checkboxes. Gotcha.
Yeah, they're exactly checkboxes, so I can sort of select many.
That's cool.
So, and another sort of thing that is kind of experimental is that you can also create groups and values, and this is sort of kind of tricky to explain, but you can sort of specify that I want to have I want for all of the sort of the metric node preceding the server, I want to sort of have that as a tag called app for all, and then I want to filter let's say tag. It's kind of wonky, so I get sort of my application here is tags.
Wow.
So I can sort of click on, I want all my backend servers, and it will select all the backend servers, or I want all the front-end servers, and it will select all the front-end servers.
That's cool. That's really nice.
So if you have your sort of metrics tree structure really organized around sort of, you have one part of the metric tree is sort of the application name, and one part is server, or if you have very organized metric namespace, you can actually get something that is similar to tagging in other time series databases.
Now, can you I know that you have that regex for kind of placeholding, but can you do any kind of filtering there to ensure that you're only returning, you know, the sort of, what am I trying to say? So let's say that there is something that's undisciplined in your namespace. Is there any way of filtering out those unwanted ones to exclude it?
Yeah. So one right now you can only you can filter out. If for some reason you only want the ones that start with.
Okay, so you just don't use parens.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
This might work.
Yeah, it did work. Now I only got the backend ones.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, I was not expecting it to work actually, because I know people have been requesting only filtering and not sort of. Originally, that feature was made to extract part of a metric key. Also,
yeah.
Not for filtering.
Yeah, I was just thinking something for exclusion, like just to be able to negate on the regex.
Yeah. So just as a final sort of thing for the templating is that now that we have this graph, in this case for only one server, another thing you can do is on the panel or on the row, you can select, I want to repeat this panel for every server selected in this variable. And I can sort of say min span should be 3. So in this case, if I select a couple of servers here, they're going to split out into multiple graphs, which is sort of useful for building very sort of generic dashboards.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. I have one more thing that I can show that is sort of directly related to Graphite, at least, is that, and that's damn it, annotations. So let's move over to the Play Grafana site. So yeah, annotations is the way so you can augment your graphs with events and metric. It kind of doubles as both a sort of annotate annotation feature, but you can also use it similarly to sort of draw as infinite, which is sort of one way that sort of you can add events or annotations to Graphite graphs. And this works similarly. So you can, if you specify an annotation with the Graphite data source, you can either just put down any metric query, and it will just sort of be drawn as an infinite line, and you can sort of get information about what the metric name is.
Okay.
So in this case, it just says deploy. But you can also use Graphite events, where you can sort of get more rich metadata and information about sort of what the actual.
Do you support any kind of native annotations within the Grafana database?
I wish I did, truly did. So one of the things that we're looking at for the maybe 3.5 or the next big release is a major revamp of annotations. So so you can create annotations from within Grafana, but also one thing that you can't do with annotations today is they can't be arranged. So annotations today are just sort of events that sort of have information, and you can fetch annotations from Elasticsearch or sort of Kibana, or I mean, if you have Elk Stack, you can also sort of fetch annotations from other sources than Graphite. But what's going to be powerful, and what we want to do, is sort of mark a region and have a region as an annotation as well. So you can sort of, this region we're having sort of the AWS was down, or I mean,
a span in time. So you can say this, that you had an outage that started at this time and it stopped at this time.
Yeah. So instead of just having two annotations that are not sort of directly related at least in Grafana sense, we can have a single annotation that have a time range.
Yeah.
So that's something we're looking at, as well as sort of being able to add annotations from within Grafana. I mean, it would be really useful just to sort of for users to sort of be able to just click on a data point or click on a time range and add a comment. Sort of, this looks funny, and then they sort of send a link to someone, and they can directly find the sort of the thing that looked interesting.
Yeah, cool, dude. This looks awesome, man. Good job. I'm really excited.
I mean, this has been my life for the last 2 years. I mean, since Monochrome for 2 years ago. Since that summer, this has been sort of full time every day.
That's cool. Are you the only one working on it, or do you have more engineers now?
Yeah, I have one more sort of call. I mean, I've hired 2 people in Stockholm. Both are working for sort of Brain Tank and Grafana related things. One is helping me with the open source stuff, and just maintaining the project and working on issues. The other one has been mainly working on our new plugin site, which we launched a couple of days ago, called Grafana.net. Well, it's going to be more than a plugin site, but right now it's mainly a sort of a plugin repository for integrations with Grafana. We have a number of sort of data sources and additional panels, and a new type of plugin called an app. So I mean, we list the Graphite data source, but it just says sort of this is a native plugin. It's included in Grafana.
Yeah.
But one thing that we're sort of what we want to do, and that I'm really excited about, is to be able to have dashboard sharing here, so we can integrate sort of when you build a nice looking Graphite dashboard for MongoDB or Cassandra, you can share that dashboard.
Yeah.
And it's gonna there. So when you export it, you can sort of say, okay, what's the metric prefix? So and when you import it, you can also sort of map it to your data source and what your metric prefix is.
Yeah, that's actually, it's funny you mentioned that, because like the predecessor, I don't know if you remember Descartes, but the predecessor to Descartes, that was like what it was based on, was this idea of being able to share dashboards. So yeah, that's cool. I don't think anybody else is doing that.
No, I mean, I'm really excited about it. There's going to be some sort of kind of templating. So when you import a dashboard, you have to sort of maybe answer some questions. Sort of, what data source do you want to? This dashboard requires this data source. What do you want to map it to your production Graphite or to test Graphite, or so to make we need to make dashboards more portable, because right now dashboards are very sort of specific to the data source you specified, the names of the data source you specified. So when we solve that issue, which we're working on right now, the next thing up here is going to be sort of dashboards. But already, so we have a number of interesting new panels that are appearing and data sources.
Cool. Good stuff, man. Thanks for walking through this with me.
Yeah, no problem.